people. Another episode of The World is Burning. Hope you all had a good weekend. Back at it again. Got some news here. Today we're looking at student loans. Yeah, so if you're new to this channel, we're just following the economic crisis everyone's going through, and we're looking at some of these collapses. And I'm pretty sure this is a big collapse on its way here, the student loan epidemic. Nearly 9 million student loans borrowers missed their first payment after the pandemic pause ended. And that's just not some sort of trivial number. 9 million. And you have 1.7 trillion in student loan debt right now altogether. So they're estimating 40% of these student loans haven't been paid after the pandemic cool-off period, which is just telling to me that people can't afford it. People can't afford an extra $700-800 a month, so they're gonna just stop paying them. And when you start looking at student loan news, all you see is just Biden talking about he's going to get rid of it, he's going to cancel it, this, that, and the other, but it never actually happens. So I honestly think they're just kind of leading these students along, making them think that they're going to get the debts paid, but they're not. So let's get into it, guys. Let's see what the world of TikTok has to say about this student loan payment epidemic.
Guys, if you're falling behind on private student loan payments, there's a few things you need to understand. One, you need to know when your accounts are going to default. The default will happen usually between 4 to 6 months for most private student loan lenders, although Navient does take about 8 months to default. Once that happens, that's when you're looking at the possibility of legal action, assignment to third-party debt collectors, even selling of the debt as far as some lenders go, like Sallie Mae. The other thing you need to keep in mind is that when you're falling behind even by a few months and those start to hit your credit, those late hits, then your options become much more limited. So I talked in my last video about how refinance and settlement are the two main options for private student loans. But once you start missing payments and your credit gets dinged, now you just really have one option. That's to settle or to just get back on track and start making payments again. The third thing you need to understand is that these lenders are getting aggressive. So have a plan on what to do once your account defaults if you're going in that direction. Guys, if you're...
Yeah, shout out this guy here. Always, guys, know when you're about to default, if you're gonna default, be aware of what's going on. Be on top of your finances and know the dates for these things. And if you are gonna default, call them and actually do a deal with them and actually talk to them. They might be able to sort of grant you some extra time or whatnot. Because, like you said, your credit's gonna start getting hit if you're just missing these every month.
I don't know what they thought was going to happen when they turned the United States into a Ponzi scheme. You're charging people more for school than they're going to make, so of course they can't pay you back. Then you've allowed the cost of living to roll up so high that we have a huge increase in the number of people that are homeless. I mean, this is all just inevitable. I don't understand what they don't...
Yeah, and this is what I've been saying. People are stretched thin as is. People forgot about these payments when they were on the pandemic period where they didn't have to pay them back. So they didn't pay them back. They forgot about them. They took out other lines of credit and they're paying that back. Like, look at this guy here. I took out 55k in 2011. After paying it diligently, I now owe 68k. He's just getting wrecked. She's just getting wrecked by the interest, this poor girl.
9 million people, 40% of the people with student loans in this country didn't pay them back in October. Duh. The government thinks that threatening your credit score is going to make a difference. I'm sorry. Gen Z doesn't give a fuck about a credit score. They're not even planning to own homes. It's not...
Yeah, and that's so true. Look at all these comments here. I choose to simply ignore my student loans. Terrible idea. But the sentiments just all throughout here. I've forgiven my loans, took out 50k, paid for 20 years, and now I owe 72k. I'm done. My credit score is going to be 100, and I'm chilling. Like, people just don't care.
With the cost of living and the low wages, it's not going to happen for a lot of people. And just as a reminder, when this country was actually mildly functional, college was $394 a year. This was in the 70s.
And that's the real scam, guys. Like, if it was a low number, even if it was $3,000 a year, like you could go to Harvard, but it was capped out at $3,000 a year. That's still kind of fair. You're paying for a course. You're not going to end up in debt. You could get a part-time job and pay for that. But when it goes up to $40,000 a year for a university degree, it's just, you need to get a loan because you can't afford that any other way. But yeah, look at that. Back in the day, it was 394. Like, what?
And you know what? That makes a lot of fucking sense, because if you want a country
Agreed.
that's going to be competitive and have doctors and have lawyers and have electricians and have people that fulfill all the different roles that are necessary for a functional fucking society, you should make that shit affordable. But instead, greed has grown like a fucking fungus throughout every single inch of the United States, and it has choked the life out of this country. I hope the Fannie Mae execs enjoyed it while it lasted, because, bitch, your money is not coming back to you, so...
Yeah, very, very, very true. They're not going to be able to get all this money back. Like, look at this one here. I'm a realtor. I have clients that make north of 200K and can't qualify because of their student loans. They're 40 and veterans. So yeah, these student loans is going to stop you from getting a house as well if you can't pay these student loans.
We all see that nearly 9 million student borrowers all missed their first loan repayments starting up again in October. 9 million, me included in that. I didn't pay it. I still have not started paying them back again. 9 million of us just didn't pay our student loans when they kicked in again. And as a result, the big loan companies had to come out and go, okay, well, we're basically saying we're going to be lenient until X date. Like, you know, why? Because this is what happens when we collectively stick together. They have to deal with it.
Yeah, he's spot on here. If 100%, not 40% don't pay back, if 100% of the 1.7 trillion just don't pay back, they can't sue everyone. I mean, they can try, but there's just far too many people for them to do that there.
Need to get a little better at understanding, like, we have the power. We always have had the power. We're just really bad at sticking together, and we're really spread out, so it's hard to collectively organize. But just don't pay them. If it's to the point where no one is paying them, you're talking about millions and millions and millions of us. These giant companies that have just been just fine for the past 3 years without getting our loan repayments because they don't need them really, are gonna have to just deal with it. They're gonna garnish all of our wages, because I'm gonna tell you what, they're not gonna want to invest the amount of money it's going to take to put the manpower into how much bureaucratic work goes into garnishing wages of literally all of the students that owe money. I'm just saying, stick to your guns. If you're one of those 9 million people that didn't pay in October, I still didn't pay, and they didn't even email me this month.
Yeah, and if you look in these comments, it's just everyone saying, like, I've forgiven myself, I didn't pay. Yeah, that's literally all of these comments.
I am so entertained by how poorly the restart of student loan payments is going. Did you see that 9 million people were like, I'm not doing that, and didn't pay their first payment? That 9 million people is 40% of the people who had bills
So
due.
many.
It's not just that 40% of people not paying that's making this all a hot mess. I made this video that I'm replying to here just before October, when I knew I was supposed to start paying, saying Mohila, my servicer, has sent me no information about what I'm supposed to pay and when I'm supposed to pay it. And all the comments were saying the same thing. 4 days before October, when our payment was due, just no information. And in mid-October, Mohila finally told me how much I had to pay and when I had to pay it 1 week before it was due. I'm very proud of all the people standing on business and not paying, but I'm like almost 70% of the way through public service loan forgiveness, so I would be an idiot if I didn't start repaying, so I paid. And yesterday, 3 months later, they sent me this email saying, hey, back in October, we didn't give you at least 21 days notice for when you had to pay us, and as a result, I don't have to pay for October, November, or December of 2023, and I can ask for my money back. So I'm just enjoying watching this play out. This is what happens when you tell us to get our shit together before you have your shit together. So entertained.
Yeah, and that's a good point. That's a good point. I think a lot of these companies, they took 2 years off with the pandemic, and they're just not ready for this. They're just not ready. And like that guy said in the previous video, the amount of manpower and money that it would cost to actually chase up all these, that's 9 million student loan borrowers. That's like so many people.
I don't know what they thought.
Yeah.
This is absolutely crazy. Student loan payments started back in October, and they just reported that nearly 9 million people defaulted on their first payment back. Wild. And this is out of like 22 million people. So only 60% of the people that had payments start again in October made their payments. 40% either couldn't or just didn't. That's crazy. 9 million people. Not only is this a big issue because, yeah, you've defaulted on a loan and you've got to figure that out and pay that back so that you're good and that your credit does not suffer. That's step one. But step two, you might not be able to qualify if you're trying to buy a house right now because you defaulted on this loan. If you currently have issues with a government-issued loan, like student loans, and then you go to apply for another government-backed loan, like VA or FHA mortgage loans, you're not going to be able to qualify simply because you are a risk in the lender's eyes for a government-backed loan. You cannot have issues with one government-backed loan and then be like, oh yeah, cool, you can go get another one. There won't be a problem. Not only is it an issue for these people in the short term because they're now having to figure out getting this fixed before their credit gets hit or anything, but also if their goal long term was to buy a house, it could really screw them if they don't fix it quickly.
Yeah, and here's the thing, guys. This is going to have some serious knock-on effects to all the markets, really. I mean, it's so much money that's just, I don't even know what they're going to do with it. So leave me a comment. What do you think is going to happen? Is this the start of something? Yeah, is this the start of the world burning? Is this the first financial house of cards to fall? The student loans?
Hey, what's up, world? Hey, check this out, guys. You guys with student loans. You know, if you miss payments on your federal student loans because everything was in deferment, they're now letting you wipe it clean off your credit report. That's right. You can get those late payments removed from your credit report, so that way it does not affect you in a negative way. Reach out to me if you want to learn more, babe.
Yeah, I don't know about that. But yeah, if it is something you can do, look into it in America, guys.
40% of the 22 million borrowers for education loans are not making their payments since those payments came due October 1st. So 30 months of time leading up to this most recent October, just a couple months ago, for those who have education loans to have some money set aside to start making those payments. And now 9 million people are not making those payments. 40%.
Yeah, and we'll leave it with this comment here, guys. The beauty of it is loan funding will dry up and the education will have to respond. The government and the education are going to have to respond to this because this can't go on for multiple months in a row. 40%, it'll grow to 50% and actually paying the debts. And the whole thing's just going to fall in like a house of cards. And we'll be here to watch it, guys. So yeah, give us a follow if you wanna follow this with me and the rest of the community. And I'll catch you on the next one. Bye.